Hello, Patreon. I try to always start these videos off by saying thank you to everyone here watching these videos. Usually it's just a quick thing before I get to the main point of the update because I know how eager everyone is for any kind of news related to the coming season. But I spend so much time in this room full of books sent to me by listeners that I can't help but think about how grateful I am that I get to do this. I also just found out that the first season of the show has over 3 million plays on it, which is far beyond anything I ever imagined when I started working on this. I am very aware that the only reason I get to do this is because so many people care about it and tell other people about it, and enough of everyone who's listened to it cares enough to come here and support it. I just wanted to say something about it because I really do mean every thank you. Writing's still going great. I keep expecting to hit some serious roadblock at some point because of how complex all this is when you look at the big picture of it. But everything really just keeps falling into place. Even if I realize something I'm working on doesn't go where I have it, it's because I've realized where it should go, so that's fine. I will say there have been some pretty big changes when moving things around like that. I can't remember where I said it, but I do remember answering a question somewhere by saying that I had a pretty clear outline for the first 4 seasons of this show before I even started working on the first season. That's down to the level of, when I said that, I thought I knew what the first sentence in the first episode of the second season was going to be. And that has changed. So that sentence is still going to open an episode in the second season, but it's not going to be the first episode because it leads to an intro that does not work for the first episode. I think maybe you just have to be open to things not going exactly the way you thought they would go and prioritizing the way that they should go, which in my experience has a tendency to reveal itself as the writing moves forward. It's basically just editing as you go, I guess. I've never read a book about how to write. I'm sure that there are some that say to just write and worry about editing later. I cannot imagine doing that, especially with historical nonfiction. And that's something I'm still not really used to, I guess, is the idea that I am now technically a historian by some definitions, I guess. It really makes me wish that I had paid better attention to whatever passed for history classes before I was in the 10th grade, which is the year that I dropped out of high school. In my defense, I probably did get good grades in those classes, but it was nothing more than memorizing facts and dates as far as I can remember. I don't remember any of that stuff really being packaged in a way that was interesting. Like, I don't know if I'll ever need to know that the Magna Carta was signed in the year 1215, because I'm not even sure I know off the top of my head what the Magna Carta was, but I know that I'm never going to forget that it was signed in the year 1215. In working on this project, I've come to realize that history, a lot of things about history are fascinating. And that's one of the reasons why I will take a sidebar in an episode to go into some event from history that on the surface you may not think has very much to do with the history of country music. Often the reason that sidebar is there is because I have learned something about history that I did not realize was as interesting as it is, that I also do feel is relevant to any comprehensive understanding of the genre. I usually find out about these things when I'm trying to understand something about the culture around these recordings that usually makes it into the lyrics of these recordings, sometimes even explains the sounds of the recordings themselves. How do Western movie soundtracks impact the genre of country music? That kind of thing. There's a lot to unpack in just that sentence. So if I'm willing to teach everyone basic music theory, which I am, if I think it'll lead to a better understanding of how great of a singer George Jones was. If there are non-musical events in history that were interesting and important enough to occupy the thoughts of George Jones and everyone around him, everyone he's working with, that's got to be relevant to this story too. Like it says in the intro to the show, the podcast about 20th century country music and the lives of those who gave it to us. This is the lives of those who gave it to us. The times these people lived in, the times before that these people heard about, passed down in family stories, so on, so forth. That's the stuff that was in their minds when they made this music. Often that's blatantly what the music is about. And it does feel kind of bad to say this, and I mean no offense, but in my opinion, none of the books that I read about George Jones for this season did a very good job of capturing the events surrounding these careers. I think there's a tendency in music writing, even these big overview books that are supposed to be, the Bible of country music or whatever, there's a tendency, I feel, to zoom in on only musical details, only details related to the music, and then at most the music business, with some passing reference to maybe that's because this was the Great Depression or something, and miss a lot about a bigger picture. So, especially if I'm going to get called a historian, this is something that I really make an effort to get right. It's a lot of trying to educate myself on things that I don't know, but I guess it helps that I've already established I'm willing to admit I don't know what I'm talking about if I don't know what I'm talking about. All right, it is back to work for me. Again, I really appreciate your support. Be good or be good at it, and I'll see you next month.